Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today on our Wellness and Weight Loss Wednesday show of the week. Thanks, of course, for joining me here today on the Cabral Concept, where the topic of the day is going over the epigenetics of weight gain and aging and the connection between them. So I've been talking a little bit more about genetics and epigenetics and how it can manifest into either robust health and wellness and vitality as we age, or it can lead to more inflammation and, as they say, inflammaging. If you've never heard about the term inflammaging before, I would love to share with you another podcast on exactly what that is and how it starts to creep into our bodies and life and brains every single year as we begin to age to a greater degree, if and only if we don't start to take care of it now. And then, of course, we are able to deal with it. So I'm going to link that up today at stephencabral.com/2294. But one topic that is emerging inside of genetics, so epigenetics is basically the expression of our genes. So if we look at our genes, okay, not that fantastic, but the expression of them, very interesting. And that has to do with how our genes, meaning us, our body, interacts with our environment. And essentially we're calling that the expression of our body, not in itself, like in a lab, but actually in the outside world, being exposed to all sorts of great things like healthy foods, brightly colored fruits and vegetables, antioxidants, of course, high quality fat, proteins as well, the vitamins, the minerals, the omega-3s that we need, all those great things, movement for our body, sleep, all that great. But what happens though when it's exposed to, hydrogenated oils, processed sugars, over-exercise, under-exercise, not enough sunlight, et cetera, et cetera? Well, then that's going to push us in the opposite direction of health. I spoke about this in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. It is called the De-Stress Protocol. So what we want to go over today, though, is something that's being referred to as the epimetabolic index. And just in case you do hear this, I wanted to explain it to you, but I do believe it's relevant for each one of us. So before I get into it, what we want to talk about, anytime we talk about weight gain or weight loss, we want to understand that our weight does not define us as a human being. You know, when I had Addison's disease and I had rheumatoid arthritis and myalgic encephalomyelitis and POTS and all these issues with my body for about a decade, I allowed it to define who I was as an individual. That was a mistake on my part. It was not the disease, right? I was not that. I was me. I was Stephen Cabral, still am. Wasn't the disease. But for many years, I let that define who I was as an individual. I had to break that thought process eventually and also in order to get well. So when we talk about weight gain, I do not want anyone to ever allow their weight loss or their weight gain to define who they are. So if you right now are 30, 50, 100 pounds over your ideal weight, it doesn't define who you are. There's also no one perfect body type. So I always like to state that. We know this we've known this for 6,000 years in Ayurvedic medicine, that there's the ectomorph, the mesomorph, the endomorph, which is also called the kapha, the pitta, and then the vata if we're working forward and backwards. So we know this, but we do also have to be cognizant of maintaining our healthy body weight. That means for most body weights, meaning like, let's just say, again, I always use this example. If you're 5'8", there's about a good 40-pound swing from like 120 pounds to essentially like 160 pounds, maybe even a little bit more, where you're within the sweet spot for your body. So it's a good swing based on your bone structure, your constitution, essentially. Again, if you don't understand constitutions of the body, no worries. Go back, check out my Ayurvedic podcast at stephencabral.com/podcast. Just scroll through the top. They're all free. And you can click on the Ayurvedic ones. And I didn't understand this, again, many years ago, even as a young personal trainer and strength and conditioning specialist. I was like, well, there's no such thing as this, and this. There is actually, there is. And that's what happens as you begin to mature and you read more and you keep an open mind. At 18 years old, I didn't have all the answers, that's for sure. I still don't think I have all the answers today, but I work really hard every single day to read, research, and to inquire and to keep an open mind. But I will tell you this, is that we're starting to move to a place in the society, though, where I do love the body acceptance. We want to do that. We want to actually appreciate that. But we also want to be cognizant that we can't necessarily mean that if you are 50 plus pounds overweight, that you're healthy. And I say that understanding that it's a sensitive topic, but also my only job is to serve. It's to serve you. And if you're getting to the place where you're 30, 50 plus pounds overweight, it is affecting your health. And I just don't want anybody to sugarcoat that for you, because I wouldn't want anybody to sugarcoat anything for me with something so important as my health. Because I want to be around as my children grow up. I want to be around for grandchildren. I want to be around to do what I love for as long as I can. I want to be around for all of these amazing things in life that we can start to harness, right? So what I want to share with you is I actually want to share with you the science of not just the high cholesterol, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, cancer, et cetera, that increased weight gain leads to, but actually like how this is clinically proven actually now at a genetic level. All right. So if you'll allow me this time, I want to share this exactly with you. You might hear things like BMI, body mass index. I've done a few podcasts on that, so I'll link that up at stephencabral.com/2294 for today's show. And on today's show, I'll actually give you an online calculator to find your own BMI. Now, whenever I mention BMI, there's always a lot of pushback from the fitness industry. I totally understand. Keep in mind, I'm in the health and fitness industry. I get it. I've lived it. I've loved it. You understand this, though, that we're not talking about the less than 1% of people with a sub 18% body fat for women and sub 14% body fat for men that have a little higher BMI, not obese BMI, but higher than 24.9, but less than 29, that don't necessarily fit that. I totally get it. I understand if you have a good waist to hip ratio, a good neck to hip ratio, if you're good overall, body fat's good, then good. No worries, right? If all your other lab markers are good, then there's no issue, right? But I'm talking to the 99, let's say 0.9% of people that BMI does apply to, right? So again, we don't want to, we just have to be careful applying things to the 0.1%. And that's really what it is. Again, if we're talking general population for practitioners out there, we need to do the most good for the most amount of people. And so talking to the 0.1% that already knows how to transform the body, that's already healthy, again, like I get it. But if you're in that 0.1, well, then you have the ability to help a lot of people. And so hopefully this show will help. So let me just get into the actual genes. So I'm looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 different genes. Now, out of all those different genes, I only want to share with you right now the top 5. And that is because there are 5, actually there's many more, but out of the ones that I shared with you, this is what it's called: strong scientific evidence. That means a study with at least or about 500 or more people, and it has or has not been replicated, right? So I consider that starting science. I don't consider that evolved or finished science. I'm not going to share that with you here today. I'm going to share with you 5 specific genes, and we'll refer to the overall process, if you've heard this before, as SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms. And again, I don't want to lose you, so don't worry about those words if they're new. But there's 5 excellent well-rounded studies that provide what is considered strong scientific evidence, and with multiple replicated studies. And when going over those 5 studies, and I can give you the genes, again, if you're interested. If you're not, glaze over for 10 seconds. ABCG1, CPT1A, PHGDH, SREBF1, and TXNIP. These are genes. Again, you don't need to know what all of that means, but what I want to share with you is this. They lead to complications as individuals move above 25 of a BMI, and definitely when you're above 29. So above 25 is considered overweight. Again, don't worry about that if you're the 0.1% of the population. But when you get over 29, then you're considered obese. Now, even if you are in great shape, if your BMI is above a 29, remember, it can still lead to health issues. And the reason is that your body is carrying around more weight than your frame most likely was genetically able or should be able to do. Because believe it or not, even excess muscle can be detrimental for many, many reasons. And I'm not going to go into that here today, but just keep in mind the actual weight on your chest cavity, on your lungs and heart does make a difference. And you can actually speak to any world-class pulmonologist or cardiologist on that. But again, I digress. So let's get into it. So as your BMI starts to get higher and higher, it actually can lead to rapid aging. And that is what these genes show. So I found this to be very interesting because it's not like, oh, it's a little bit more. It's actually double the risk for many of these epimetabolic numbers. So for example, as weight increases, as chance for diabetes increases, we're talking about type 2 diabetes, at pre-diabetic level, your epimetabolic index, meaning like how fast you're moving towards aging, is about double. It's not double, sorry, excuse me. It's about 20% greater, excuse me. So not as great, right? But when you develop type 2 diabetes, which hemoglobin A1C, let's say at 5.7 and above, fasting glucose of 126 or over, this is during a fasting glucose tolerance test, you're looking at about double. Absolutely astounding when I read that. Type 2 diabetics are aging faster than non-diabetics, and pre-diabetes is still aging you 20% or so faster than if you didn't have that dysregulated blood sugar. Very interesting. The next one is this, weight alone. So here's what the epimetabolic studies actually showed. Those people that were just a little underweight, not a lot underweight, but a little underweight. And again, I'm not telling you to be underweight. I'm not underweight by any means. I'm at the higher side of my BMI. And I share that with you because I'm human. I have my body. It's my body. I have healthy body fat. I've got a healthy waist-hip ratio. So I understand that, again, there's different body types. I'm on the higher side of the healthy BMI. But so I'm not underweight. But those slightly underweight actually were absorbed to be aging the least, not as fast. And we seem to know this from a lot of cultural population studies of, let's just say, smaller framed individuals. They seem to live a little longer life. I mean, that alone, I think, is fairly unique, fairly interesting, and well worth studying. The second is that normal weight was just like a 1.1. So aging a little above baseline, just normal weight, right? So underweight, a little bit less. Normal, just a little above baseline. Overweight, we started to move, again, at about 30% faster aging. And when you reached obese, again, so overweight is above a 25 on BMI. Obese is above a 29. You're aging almost 100% greater. So let's say it's about 9 years. Let's do easier math. So let's say that for every year, you're aging like 1.8 internally at a faster level. So you can start to see that once that weight creeps up, let's say you're 30 years old or so, that when you are, let's say, 45, you could feel like you're in the body of a 60-year-old. So you can see why, unfortunately, mortality is greater at a much younger age, at about a decade, for those people that are more obese. It just leads to far greater complications. And again, I share this with you, not out of fear, nothing like that, because there's obviously so much that you can do, but hopefully just with the understanding that you have so much control. You really do. And again, I'm not talking down to or anything like that. It's just that most people are telling you to eat less and move more. And I know that that's not the answer most likely for you if you've tried those things before. It's part of the equation, but we really need to begin to balance and have a larger discussion about hormones, cortisol, thyroid, estrogen, and vitamin D and insulin and hemoglobin A1C and other factors as well. So again, this goes pretty deep, but I just wanted to share this again with you here today. Just a couple more. These were other factors that really did seem to matter. Having positive HDL levels, so healthy levels of healthy cholesterol, was one of the factors that led to less aging. Another one was triglyceride levels. A lot of people like to overlook triglyceride. I think this is an important marker beyond cholesterol itself. Those people, like, again, we're talking about a higher triglyceride, certainly above 100, most likely above 150. But you want your triglycerides ideally at a 75 or maybe even a little bit below. Some people may have different viewpoints on that, but the science certainly says if you're erring on the side of caution, far more studies than not, meaning like 10x the studies, show higher levels of triglycerides to be a very bad thing. And that is because hepatic fat, so meaning fat of the liver, fatty liver, and other liver issues lead to greater levels of aging, greater levels of inflammation, which is really what we're talking about here today, is these genes express themselves in a mutated way, and it leads to just far greater levels of inflammation. And then inflammation leads to the diseases of the body that we are genetically predisposed to, right? And the next one, and really the last one that I'm going to go over here today, is overall fasting insulin levels. So this was really important. So a lot of people, they don't have type 2 diabetes, and they may not even measure, right, their fasting glucose or insulin. Well, we have to understand that this whole process of dysregulated blood sugar, now it is being taken too far with long-term chronic keto-based diets, which leads to their own issues as well. But it's the understanding that, it's the non-understanding, first of all, that you can actually eat all macros. You'll have to customize it based on your body, but that dysregulated blood sugar is one of the most harmful effects, especially overnight, okay? Your body actually does not have an issue with eating a meal, bringing blood sugar up for a bit, not a massive spike, but bringing it up and then bringing it down over a couple hours. Not only is that normal, many studies are showing that it's probably beneficial. And the reason is that it's turning on the right leptin and ghrelin hormones to satisfy hunger, so that's gone, good. To actually signal more fat burning, so that's good. And also the actual ability to change fatty acids, so stored fatty acids, to actual fuel. So all these things are good things. But what we don't want is to essentially have dysregulated blood sugar, let's say 7 at night to 7 in the morning. Like, we have to have that overnight phase of balanced blood sugar. So you can take your morning glucose in the morning, certainly should be between a 75 and 95 at the highest. And when you do run your insulin levels, do run them in the morning. And ideally, they're between like a 2 and a 6. That's really what you're looking for. Again, I'm talking about a lab called the Stress Mood and Metabolism Lab, but you can run any lab you want to check your levels. So again, when you're running your hemoglobin A1C below a 5.7, ideally in the low 5s, and insulin, 2 to 6, based on, again, the Stress Hormone Mood and Metabolism Lab. But again, work with your naturopathic doctor, integrative health practitioner level 2, or with us at Equilife. It's totally your choice. But you just want to make sure that those numbers are good to go, that they're good. And then when you're working with your PCP or MD, you want to run your triglycerides, you want to run your LDL, your HDL, your cholesterol to make sure that those are healthy levels as well. Now, the last part is understanding your overall BMI. So you want your BMI, your body mass index, to be between about a 19 and a 24.9. And if not, again, if it's a 27, okay, no worries. We just want to bring that down if possible. We want to bring it down a bit. But when it gets above that 29, that's the signal that, okay, it's not about weight. Like, we can make it about weight if we want, but let's make it about health. And at that point, your body's not healthy. It's just not. And my body wasn't healthy for a decade. It wasn't healthy until all 27 years, until I got to the point it was. And again, I didn't know better, and many people don't. So all I'm trying to do is teach. I'm not trying to preach. I just simply want to share with you that you can be healthy, that you can lead the life that you want, full of energy, full of vitality. And it's simply understanding that there are big levers that enable you to make this happen. And quite possibly the biggest lever is being able to take the weight off. I truly believe that. A lot of people are focused on their NAD levels. Believe me, I think it's great. I really do with aging. However, you'll do so much more good for yourself and longevity and energy and everything else in inflammation if you're able to take your weight down to a healthy level. So I have so many free podcasts on weight loss. I'll link them up. Just head on over to stephencabral.com/2294. You'll have all the free information you would like. Again, StephenCabral.com/2294. I appreciate you. Thank you all. And if this show was helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.